Hi everyone, you're welcome back. My name is Tatchen, and today we're looking at audiences, and this is chapter 9 of the IGCSE ICT and the theory section, which is what I mostly focus on. And this is we're almost getting closer to finishing up this part of the course. And today we're looking at audiences, which is mainly looking at presentations and websites. At some point in your life, you've probably had to do a presentation, or you will still have to do that, and a movie, whatever. And we also need to know what laws guide these kind of things, and piracy and the rest, and maybe websites. What are some things you need to consider when you're dealing with such? So, not to waste time, let's dive straight into it. And when we talk about audiences, we're looking at giving you a basic introduction. So, when you talk about audiences, basically it could be a group of people you want to give a talk to, like I'm doing now. I'm talking to an audience, and my audience are probably a lot of them will be ICT students who want to write the IGCSE exams, and maybe we also have people who just want to learn to get to know about ICT and how it could help them. And so that is an audience, and it could be whatever you're presenting could be a solution you are providing to these people on the use of ICT devices. Like now, I'm presenting to you a chapter 9, which is basically audiences, and it could also be trying to provide a solution to an individual or audience requires, and doing this requires proper planning and preparations. You don't just get up, for instance, coming to talk to you today. I had to put together the slides, so that's some form of preparation and planning on how it has to be done. And you also need to consider your audience. Who are you speaking to? And how the solution you are providing would be understood and useful to them. So when doing this note or doing this video, I need to consider how best can I do it such that you understand, and it should be helpful to you to maybe succeed in your career, succeed in your exams, most importantly. And also you need to consider the audience who will be part of the solution. Maybe you have people who partake in your solution. At this point, I'm the only person maybe partaking in this solution, and somehow maybe those who comment, give ideas, give critique, and that helps in making things better for future videos. So it's very important to have all of this in consideration. And how well can you present the solution to them? So that's very important. How well can you tailor the needs to meet the solution to meet the needs of the people? um Another important thing is to how do you appreciate your audience. So appreciating here simply means like having them in mind. They should be the bigger picture, not even what you yourself. So they are the people that are the reason why you're doing what you're doing. So it's always important to consider and appreciate their needs before you even think of doing what you want to do. Now, why is this important? First of all, when you consider the audience, makes you tell a solution or presentation that what meets their needs. Secondly, they speak in a you have be able to speak in a language they are familiar with and can understand. You don't just get up and you're saying things that will not meet their needs. And then you can also demonstrate in a way they can understand, and then you determine how to capture their attention. So use audience specific requirements such as access controls, interfaces, and all those things depending on what you are dealing with. Also, now let's think about, maybe you're trying to give a presentation, you're trying to build a website. What are some things you need to consider? First of all, who are you dealing with? Are they young children? Are they adults? Are they the elderly people? It's very important to have this in mind. You don't want to go doing a presentation for young children, and all you have there are things of the olden days and the rest, things that will not be useful to them, things that will not be captivating to them. So it's important to bear in mind your audience. It's very important. Now, when you're dealing, let's say, with young children, you have to look for bright, cheerful colors Animation and sound, children love to hear a lot of that. More pictures than text, large fonts and simple short words. Include games where possible, and must be an easy to use interface. So in either of these cases, you have to bear this in mind. And then for the case of adults and maybe the adult older children, you can make attractive displays. At least they have a better, stronger mind. The content must be interesting. Yeah, you require a good mixture of what text and images, and you're careful to use appropriate language level depending on the age level. So use bullet points to make the content easier to read. And for adult people, you have contrasting color, make it easier to distinguish words. So elderly people are also focused about coloring and the rest. They just want something simple, nice, and acceptable to them. Then you have larger fonts. They might have eyesight issues, so you want something much larger so that they can see very well. An easy to use interface. When you're designing a website or you want something, an interface for them to communicate with, it has to be easy to use for them. They are elderly people, so consider those needs, and do not use too much technical language, as they may be less familiar with this thing. So it's important to understand and consider this thing if when you're thinking of such a thing. Also, when thinking of the audience, other important aspects you could consider is the needs. What do they need? How do you find out what the audience need, or how do you find out about them and knowing their needs? First of all, you could do interviews. We've talked about interviews before in when we do a system development life cycle. So this kind of a system you're trying to develop as well. So interviewing them, using questions to get information from your target audience is also very important. Give online surveys to your target audience. So those are different ways you can. It's just like gathering information about a system. So you're gathering information about who you're dealing with. And now another way to appreciate your audience is giving a presentation. Now to see, considering giving a presentation, what things you consider most cases is what are you presenting on, who are your audience, what is their age group, what are their interests, are they working, any disabilities. So with all of these, you can tell these are questions that once you are able to answer these questions, you'll be able to meet their needs, and at the end of the day, they will find it worthwhile or helpful to have been part of whatever solution you're trying to provide to them. So common characteristics of audience, very common characteristics of audience are usually their age range. Is very important to know the age range. You need to know the income level, you need to know their interest. Any disability or impairment is very important, because you don't want to go talking to people maybe who are having hearing issues and you are not very audible or not, or you don't provide them with hearing aids to facilitate the hearing. So these are very important things you need to consider. And another thing is still, if you're trying to give a presentation, so that's a special case study we're looking at here. There's still some key, as we talked about, the language you are using. It's very important. The needed multimedia equipment is very important. A projector, a screen, whatever. The length of the presentation, how long. If you're dealing with children might not be able to focus for up to 30 minutes. So you have to have that in mind. Include maybe videos, include maybe animations that will keep them alert, keep them engaged. Maybe after a slide you put a short clip, they watch it, they are engaged, next, just like that. But for elderly people, you might not need that. So that age range is very important, and knowing exactly what audience you're dealing with is very, very important. That way you make a solution, you make a presentation that is tailored to meet their needs. And next, how you think about how to make it interactive, and then you find interesting examples to use to illustrate specific point. That makes the presentation much engaging, and allows you, or shows that you actually appreciate the audience. And key factors you could also consider could be the language you use, which we've actually looked into. Now, in case of language, if you're dealing with children, you have to know no vulgar language, of use inappropriate language, mind where you are, mind who you're talking to, and the kind of multimedia you use. You should be able to use sound, video, animation, depending on what you're dealing with, and length of presentation, as we talked about. Long presentations will only work if they are interesting and engage the audience. And a very young audience will quickly get bored and start to become restless. So children, adult, the elderly, be very mindful of how you tailor presentations for this kind of people. And making presentations interactive is a very good way to make people engage, asking questions, engaging the audience is very important. That makes them feel important or a part of your presentations. And making good use of very good examples, life relatable examples, gives you a good heads on, or gives you a good stance during that presentation. So basically this chapter might seem very simple, it might seem boring, but it's a very very important chapter. It's something that you do over and over and over in your life. And it's very very important you pay attention to such things. And so with that said, let's look at a couple of questions that might pop up in your exam, or some related questions. So here they're saying to describe advantages and disadvantages of using a multimedia presentation rather than a web page on the school website. So this is just some sort of a question. As I always say, these are live relatable questions. Why would you want to use a multimedia presentation rather than a web page on a school website? Any advantages? First of all, you need to know what's the difference between multimedia presentation and a web page. First of all, when you talk about multimedia presentation, it's just presentation like a video flow. Web page, maybe it could be a link to somewhere they'll have to read a lot of reading, but the presentation will kind of slideshow. It could be a video and all those things, so people can listen even doing other things. So first point you could consider is that it's easier to display to parents. Less time will be taken to display the information. Content can easily be changed, updated, and more control over what the layout of your presentation, and you can view it without internet access. So though that's very important. And disadvantages: presentation will be seen by less people, so that's one of the disadvantages. But if you have a web page, people could see it from any part of the world, so the visitor may not see the whole presentation, because maybe, for instance, somebody leaves before the presentation is over, they cannot see it again. Whereas if it was a web page, you can access it from anywhere. So these are just things you need to consider. So when they're asking for 6 points, how many points you try to give? 3 here and 3 here. If it's 8 points, 8 here, 4 here, 4 here, or 5 here, 4 here, 3 here. So always bear that in mind. Don't give too many on one side and less on one side. You won't get all your marks. Now the next one is a Tawara College is setting up a new website for its older students. The website will publicize the events in the college as well as revision and supporting event activities. The head teacher wants the website to be attractive to the older students, and it must meet their needs. Before the website can be produced, the needs of the audience have to be taken into account. Very important. Analyze the needs of this audience. First, you want to set up a new website for this older students. Very important very important point. The website will publicize the events in the college as well as revision and sporting activities. So you need to know who their audience is, carry out a survey, interview them, find out what they need. First of all, you could use clip art or images that can grab the attention of the audience. Very important. The content should be relevant and add to their knowledge, so you don't provide them with things they already know. The site should be interactive. Fonts must be clear and readable. They are older students, so I don't know the age group, but they are students but elderly. The fonts must be clear and readable. A balance, so you should have a balance of pictures and information. So don't overpopulate too much information, not too many pictures. So try to have a balance between these two to keep them engaged while they read. And then the website should be compatible, like work on all smart devices. So somebody should be able to access it with the phone. You should be able to access it with maybe a tablet, a laptop, a desktop, whatever. And the content should be updated timely. Keep the site up to date. And the interface should be simple and intuitive. Probably also very user friendly. So less white space should be used. The website should contain presentation, videos, images, and whatever you think could attract, engage, and always want to to learn more. Now also here we also have a group of students in the school who are planning to publicize a school concept. They can either produce a web page which will be sent to the company that runs the school website, or create a multimedia print and show the to students and visitors. Give two types of content which could be used in a multimedia print that cannot be used in a printed leaflet. Yeah, it could be moving images, you could have a video clip and all those things. You could have sound, audio, animations, and the rest. So these are just easy takeaway points. Now we move to the second aspect. We're looking at software copyright. This should actually be 9.2. I'll have to correct that. Software copyright and piracy. So when we talk about software copyright, we're looking at any software you find online. Most of the software which is not open source or they are being sold, they have copyright laws. Software on CDs, DVDs, or online sites have certain rules you need to follow when using them. So for instance, Microsoft Office, for instance, if you buy it, making and selling, giving a software copy to people, friends, mates, etc., it's not allowed. Using software on multiple devices without licenses for these devices is also not allowed. And using code from another software in your own software and selling it without getting authorization from the copyright holders is not allowed. So that's against copyright law. So renting out software you bought to other parties without prior authorization is also not allowed. So these are laws, that copyright laws. And now we also need to know, how is software piracy protected? The user is required to enter a unique license number or product key. So when you buy a software, what happens? How do the software companies protect this? First of all, they can give you a license number. We call it license number. Maybe you get a serial number, serial key, and all those things that you input when you're installing or you want to use the software. And the user is also asked to agree to software license agreement before it can be installed. This, I would say, 99.99% of people don't read software license agreement. We just click yes and we move on. And in most cases, I'm also part. Some software can only install if they are in the original drive or CD. So these are some ways that protect software piracy. And some software come with one-time installation. So the software that when you put the CD, you install it, you can no longer install it again in any other device. So that is a very good way they use to protect or prevent piracy. And some software have holographic prints on CD indicating its originality. So if you pirate that software, it won't have that holographic print on the CD too, and that shows it has been pirated, and you could be arrested for that. Question wise, one of such question you could encounter in this area will be, most data protection acts include the principle that data should be accurate and where necessary kept up to date. List of other principles of typical data protection acts. The data should be fairly and lawfully processed. We've looked at things like this before. Data should be kept secured, should be processed in a transparent manner, should be kept longer than needed, should not be shared or transferred to other parties. That should be adequate, relevant, and not excessive, and all of this. I mean, you need just 4 points. And next question says, when software is bought, the purchaser is subject to copyright legislation. Give 4 actions that would breach copyright legislation. First of all, looking at making a copy of software or sharing it with a friend without authorization, like we said, giving out the software or streaming without permission, duplicating copies of the software and selling them, using coding from original software in your own program or modifying the software, renting out software without permission to do so. So these are all laws or copyright ways that copyright legislation could be breached by people. So that was not really long for this chapter. That is it. And I would say we've come a long way, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks I should put out the last video for the theory section, and then we'll start looking at other areas where the ICT will take us. And the initial project was to do videos for this for the first 10 chapters, and I'll see if where we continue, we move from the next time. And please feel free to drop some comments and subscribe, share the video, and provide critiques. That's always very important to me. It helps to, you know, give better videos, to provide better information or to you. So please feel free, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.